in this case XHTML for it. And so any tag then, all these SVGs, ellipses, rect, they're all assumed to come from that namespace in that SVG one. But if you start referencing more than one namespace, so we've got one that's, we've got a couple here for an X-link of type simple for the rectangles, one for sort of ellipses. If you start wanting to reference more than one, the blue ones, we haven't got any blue ones on there, sorry, it's on the next page. We're just defining where that element is in the root. Perhaps I'm making, I mean, they might be making a bit more sort of big deal out of it than needed, but basically, if you see that colon in front of them, they just used to reference that schema document type definition that we've got. So it's just really just the terminology that you'll be seeing in the slides. The more important thing is just this XSLT part to it, the style transforms. Now every year we do get a few sort of employers coming to us asking, do you have any students who've done XSLT before? Or can they sort of do some programming in XSLT? It's quite a tricky thing to do because it's not the same approach as I say as programming. It's more a sort of pattern matching approach. And an XSLT, a style transform, is defined in XML itself. So what you'll have is you'll have a series of patterns defined in XML, and you'll apply those patterns to an XML document. And these XML transforms are defined themselves over at that W3 organisation for it. And there's various different types of these, either for formatting objects or transforming them. And if we take a sort of sample thing that we might be wanting to do, if we take, say, a sample, fairly simple XML document here, an employee record for somebody's name, which company they're working for, where that company's based, email, all that sort of thing associated with it. Yeah, you've got all the tags around it. Now, there might be several applications wanting to use that. It may be that you want to display that just on a web page. That's a sort of common thing to want to do. It may be that that's like an input to a database. You want to sort of read it into a database, just put that actual data in. And you might have a column title somewhere, a column company, a column location. It may be that you want to put it into a PDF document. So what we want to do is take that same data and transform it into different approaches. It might be into a fairly simple HTML one. So you're taking the raw data there. You've got a first and last name and title and things. But then you're formatting in an XML with perhaps headings, bold, turning some things into an email link. It's the same sort of data, but you've wrapped it up in some special HTML tags. Some have got an H1 tag, some have got a bold tag there, some have got like a link tag for the sort of email address, based around that raw data. So you've decided to take this sort of email name somewhere, or the first and last name or whatever, and put them out in a certain approach. So one way you might be deciding to do it in HTML. You might decide to put it into a PDF document, ready for printing, business card there. So you're again sort of printing them out in certain locations and logos on it, ready for printing out. Maybe that you put it into what's called a load file for a database. A load file is just something that a database the actual management system can read and then decide, well, this is column 1, this is column 2, this is column 8, this is column 14. That's one way of using a database file. You could transform it into a series of insert statements. You know, you have with, say, SQL, you have insert into this table these values. You've got these values from your original one. So you might be wanting to put this into a table and say, insert into employee, first name, Sarsaparilla, surname, Usdin, affiliation, title, all those sorts of things. You extract them out and wrap them up in a nice sort of insert statement to put in. Now you could do that programmatically. You could be reading them in and then just do a system out print line of insert into this table and then put the actual value and then the sort of rest of the line. Pretty much like we were doing in the labs, we were just generating a straightforward text output. You generate a text file with that series of insert statements in. Or do a similar thing and just generate HTML by reading it in and generating that. Those could all be done programmatically the way that we've got. So what we're doing is we're transforming sometimes a large one, or it might be that you're transforming, say, an XML document that's got surname and first name in there and wanted to combine it into a single tag. Or changing that XML with a chapter, and there's a sort of whole bit of information on a chapter, and each one's got a title, and each one's got a sort of text, and you're turning that into some HTML. So, okay, when you printed out this is lawns and gardens, and then put this into bold, and it's the rest of the sort of text coming into it, and put it into the appropriate fonts. So you, as I say, you can do that yourself, or the way that we're looking at here is to use a transformation process, very similar to how CSS works. Anybody who's done some CSS with sort of HTML, you effectively say, look, every time you come across, say, this H1 tag, do it in red, bold, or every time you come across this one, formatted in this way. It's like a formatting one. And XSLT is basically a souped-up version of that. It's saying, look for these patterns, apply these rules to it, and then generate this output. So your CSS is applied by the browser to an HTML source document, and then when it's rendered on screen, the original browser might not mention a particular colour for headings, but the CSS style sheet does, and the browser merges them together, and the output document is put on screen. And it's a similar case with this more elaborate version, XSLT, which takes your XML source and a set of rules for transforming the document, and then runs it through a processor which will match those rules against the document itself, and then create you an output document. Now you can either do this inside a browser, and the browser can take XML and a set of rules, and the browser itself has got the processor built in, and the output document is just what's rendered on screen. And that's what you see. And that's basically how the CSS works. With CSS, you take some HTML, you take a CSS document, and then the browser processes those, and your output is seen on screen. But if ever you look at the, if ever you take that screen and you look at the source code, it's still got the original document in there. It hasn't got the thing that mentions all the colours of the things. That's put in there by the style sheet. Now recently, well I say recently, the last sort of few years, browsers have come to be able to cope with this wider variety of transforms. If you tried on some of the older browsers, you'll have a bit of a problem, but certainly the browsers in the last couple of years should sort of work okay to do this generic changing over. Just as an example to sort of show you, if I take, I'll just do a new blank sheet. Although that doesn't sort of look too much, there's a couple of names in there, Alan Turing and Richard Feynman. The actual document, if I click on view the page source to that, the page source is this XML document with yet outer tag of people and then a couple of person elements inside it, one with the name, first name, last name, Alan and Turing, another one for Richard Feynman there, what profession they are, hobbies, that sort of stuff. That's the original data. But when I actually opened it up, just closing that one down, when I just opened it up in the web browser, all that's sort of come out of this is surname, comma, forename there, which is a bit different to what the original document looked like. That's what the source looks like. Now what we're doing here is we're telling the browser to do that transformation for us, and that's at line 2 in here. And it's used very much like a style sheet. In a style sheet you put a similar tag in. You have a style sheet type text/CSS. Now in this case we're having that the style sheet is text/XSL and given a reference to where that style transform is. That style transform is this lecture transform 5.xsl. That contains the rules to turn this document. And in my case, all I'm interested in really in here is say I want the last name followed by the first name. So Turing followed by Alan, Feynman followed by Richard, as opposed to all that other sort of data. And that's what's just come out. Now, it might, that's not necessarily a well-formatted for HTML. It's just extracting out that raw